This is Hospitality 1-to-1, conversations on the industry. Here's your host, Chris Bettis.
Kip, thank you again for joining us today.
My pleasure. Always enjoy chatting with you, so this will be good.
Absolutely, it'll be great. It won't be good, it'll be great.
Okay, very good. Yeah,
That's
very great.
That's right. Go big or go home, you know? I mean, come on now. So we'll just get it started and kick right off here. So you've worked your way up in the industry. So what have you seen from the sales side that has changed over the years?
Well, of course, technology, I mean, in all aspects of our life, so it's no different in the sales arena, if you will. Revenue management wise, in the old days when I started about 20 years ago, it was as if the revenue manager, if there was a revenue manager, the revenue manager was kind of like Oz at the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain there pulling the levers, and who knew why or what was going on. But nowadays with the incredible technology that we can look forward and see what our comp set is doing in terms of demand in the marketplace, it's incredible. I mean, we look back, obviously, but we're always looking forward. There used to be the day when the front desk would do the twice a day call around to see what the other hotels were doing in terms of pricing. I mean, are you kidding? Now, nowadays, well, shoot, you could just go online and look anyway. But, we've got all that comes in a form spreadsheet every morning with various different platforms that we subscribe to. And so just the intelligence that's out there. So it can be overload too. I mean, obviously there is a lot of information that's out there that 20 years ago, you're kind of guessing on a lot of things, but nowadays, the technology is incredible.
So you talk about the technology, and you kind of hinted at the overload part of it. I was going to ask you about that. We always talk about technology being a good thing, and for sure it is.
Right.
What do you think are some of the drawbacks to the additional information or the technology now?
Yeah. So when I'm training a new sales manager or director of sales, and I introduce them to the star report. A lot of numbers on the star report. For somebody that's new, if they're new in the industry, it's like, oh my goodness. So I just point out, just look at this column and look at take one thing at a time. And then as you develop, you can start moving around the report. Or Hotelligence is another one. Oh my gosh, there's so much information there. It's, it can be like deer in a headlight time where, you don't know what to look at. So I try to just boil it down to just look at this one thing and focus on that. Because if you try to absorb it all, and I don't even try to do that. I tend to, and I've learned talking to peers, some peers, they just look at this thing and I just look at that thing. And so you just can't, it's really hard to take it all in all the time. Now, if you need to dive down deep, sure, you can do that. But for somebody that's new, just slow down, focus on one thing. That's what I try to do.
One thing at a time. So
yes.
Let me ask you a question here. Obviously, you've kind of given us that 30,000-foot overview, if you will, of all the changes. What for you has been the best, if you will, invention or new change that's come up that's really helped you the most?
For me, it would be LinkedIn. It's the greatest tool that's out there right now, where in the old days, talking like it's 100 years ago, but even 10 years ago, LinkedIn, and I should go back and look to see how long I've been connected on LinkedIn, but when I first started with LinkedIn, nobody really knew what to do with it. And now, I mean, we do all of our pre-prospecting, if you will, via LinkedIn. We can look at different companies, see who's connected at the companies, then find the person who is the meeting planner or HR or sourcing or whatnot. And so you can dive down into that before you even go see anybody. In the old days, you drive around the business parks and the corporate areas of town and knock on doors. I used to have a theory, the 3 flagpole theory. If company had 3 flagpoles up front. They've got travel. It still holds true today. Still holds true, but
it's quite scientific, apparently.
Yes. If they have a foreign flag as one of the 3, that they got travel. But anyway, so yeah, LinkedIn is the greatest tool that's there right now because, if we get a random email from somebody or somebody calls, the first thing we do, or if we get a lead from the brand, first thing we do is go into LinkedIn and stalk that person, and see if it's legit, see who they are, and that sort of thing before you even make contact with that company or the person. So I love LinkedIn.
That's a great point. You get a lot further past the gatekeeper if you ask for someone by name rather than by title.
Right. Yeah. Connect with as many people as you can. Not everybody's going to connect with you.
Right.
Once they do connect with you, even before, so when you send out the invite to connect with them, you can still type in a little message there. You don't want to get too wordy, but you could introduce yourself right there instead of waiting for them to connect with you. So, they'll make the choice if they want to connect with you or not, but at least you've had a chance to get your name in front of them.
And I believe that's how you and I got connected, now that I think about it.
I think so.
Absolutely. Yes. So let's move on to your role. I mean, in your current role as a regional director of sales, how many of the director of sales or sales teams, property level, do you help with hiring?
Well, we've got a cluster of hotels in Raleigh that I'm directly connected with, and then we've got other hotels in other markets that sort of a dotted line to, and in a consultant, if you will, or a mentor role. But here in Raleigh area, I do all of the hiring process for the sales teams here.
And do you actually source the candidates yourself? Are they brought to you by the GM? How do you go about finding the right candidates for yourself?
Yeah, so we go through the usual job sites for the hotel industry, and so I weed through them, and my number one thing is and it's a painful process, but we're in a decent sized market, so there are enough local candidates that I'll always invite them in to the hotel to meet with me over coffee or whatnot, and because the phone interview for me is I just dread it. So you just can't. You just can't pick up on nuances on the phone. So try to get in front of them, meet with them. It's very casual because I want to see, what they look like, how they present themselves, just in a conversational type mode. I'm probably the worst interviewer there is. I don't go through the standard interview questions. I'm just talking just to get to know the person. And then for the second and third interviews, then we bring in other team members. I've learned years ago to include the sales team in the process. And it's not like everybody's got an equal vote, but if I have a good feeling about this candidate, I want my team members to chime in because they may have a completely different view, and they're the ones that probably work closer together than I do with this person. And so there needs to be a synergy with new candidates. And it goes the other way, too, where the candidate may leave after having met with us and think, boy, I don't want to work with those knuckleheads, so it goes both ways. Everybody should feel good about the team that is around us here, and it seems to work. And so that's what I do here in the Raleigh area. Is I'll always bring in not a huge list of candidates, but 5. I'll whittle it down to like the top 5, and it really depends on the position that we're hiring for. I will get resumes, broad spectrum of experience, no experience, lots of experience. It's sort of like in pro sports where when they're talking about like the NFL draft or the NBA draft, do you draft for need or the best available athletes? So same thing with us. Do we hire for need or the best, the person with the best experience? So give you a quick example. A year ago, I had an opening, Smurf sales manager opening. The Smurf sales manager that I had inherited when I took this regional position did not have a lot of sports background, and the position requires about 85% sports booking. And so, if you don't know sports, that's a tough one because you may be a good hotel salesperson, but there's a certain language of sports. And so if you're talking to coaches, they can pick up on it right away if you don't know what their sport is all about or just the subtleties of what they need when they're traveling. And so in the interview process, first thing I'm looking for, does this person know sports? So basically we're just talking sports for all these interviews that I was doing. And I came across a young gentleman, a couple years out of college, no hotel sales experience, but he knows sports inside and out. And so I knew I can teach somebody hotel business. I can't teach you sports. It's just one of those things. You've either played sports all your life or you have siblings that are involved in sports. And so if you don't know sports, I can't ask you to go home and watch ESPN Sports Center and come back and report on it to me. So you either know it or you don't. And so he knows sports. I've mentored him for the last year in hotel, the revenue management side and why we do this and why the rates are this on a Wednesday, but only, this rate on the weekend. He's killing it now. So he's 1 year into it and is just off and running. Best hire I've had in a long time. Now, that being said, though, he would not have been a good hire as a corporate sales manager. He's perfect for the Smurf sports position, and he could do the corporate sales manager thing, but that in the interview process, I'm looking for a totally different type of person for corporate sales in the Raleigh market. A lot of Fortune 500 companies that we work with, so I'm looking for slightly different candidate. So so it can go both ways there. I mean, there's no right or wrong. Like I said, do you draft for what you need or you draft the best available person? It's the same thing in the sales team here.
We jokingly don't talk about drafts in Cleveland here because we've not done too well in that area.
Sorry.
Now, it's funny you bring up the idea of knowing what you're looking for. It sounds like the takeaway here is no cookie cutters. You really look at each position uniquely. Right.
And I pride myself in not being the typical director of sales. I didn't work my way up, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I didn't work my way up through the hotel. I just came right in from the outside into the sales department when my first hotel job. So and again, it's fine if you worked your way up from front desk through the ranks. That's all great. But so I don't know what it is. I'm just looking for something in somebody, that it factor, but it needs to be the it factor that works for that piece of the puzzle that we're looking for.
You've segued fantastically into the next question.
Uh-oh.
Nice job. So, so the it factor. I know it's intangible, but it runs across, no matter if it's corporate, Smurf, group, doesn't matter.
Right.
What do you look for in a candidate? What's that, I guess, intangible that if you could put a label to it, what do you think it might be?
Well, if you know, let me know, because I don't know what it is either. It just, when I'm sitting there talking to candidates, I can just tell if this is somebody that's got it. It's like a quiet confidence. It's not fake. Part of the presentation, just a confidence factor that is real. And I can usually tell if somebody's a fraud, if they're really trying too hard. And that's why I try to bring them in multiple times in one-on-one setting and then a group setting, because you'll come to learn their personality. In fact, my most recent hire, we joke that we're like old friends now, because he's been in so many times for interviews that, by the time they start, feel like family already. So it's just one of those things where they just have it. I don't know what it is, but it's just a quiet confidence about them and what they can do for us.
You talked a little bit about hiring candidates, and we're going to talk in a moment more about the training and teaching side. But let's first look at any type of salesperson at the hotel. If A, you're a brand new salesperson, or you aspire to become a hotel sales manager, what's the most important thing a new salesperson needs to master or to do to be successful?
Well, a couple things. You need to know your product, obviously, and know your product inside out, know what your competitor's product represents. That's kind of just sales 101, I guess. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. That would be number one. And the part of the it factor is somebody that can, circling back to the it factor, would be somebody that just inherently has that drive to always be looking under every rock, the soliciting, because I joke that in the sales department, there's never a timeout or a day off. Like, it may be slow out in the hotel, sometimes over the holidays or, a Sunday. But in the sales office, we're working 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year out. It's not slow. There's never a timeout. We're always pushing. And so you need somebody that, and again, it's cliche, a self-starter, but that's true. You need somebody that is always digging for that next piece of business.
That's a great tip. The ABC rule, always be closing kind of deal.
Yes.
Now, you had mentioned to me and to both, you've mentioned to us, I'm going to rephrase that actually. Here we go. And by the way, we'll actually just probably keep this all in the video. We do what's called a unplugged version of our podcast, so We'll keep it in for you. But for the actual podcast, I'll edit this part out. I want to rephrase the question.
All right,
here we go. 3, 2, 1. So you mentioned in an email to me that you train and you teach employees to see the property from the guest's eye. How do you manage to do that? I mean, it sounds great, but what exactly does that mean?
Well, it's sort of inherent in myself anyway, but for me personally, I stay in our hotels 4 nights a week anyway. So when I leave my office, I become a guest of the hotel, our own hotel. And so I'm our not-so-secret shopper within the population of the hotel guests. I just sort of blend in, and I never, if I'm sitting in the restaurant or in the fitness room, I never share with anybody that, hey, I work here. I'm the regional director of sales, because it's kind of weird, like, why are you here then? But so I just blend in and become a guest of the hotel. And so it is fascinating. And both of our 2 hotels here in Raleigh, top of the brand, each brand, Hilton Garden Inn and DoubleTree, fantastic guest scores. So we're by no means distressed or anything. So I'm looking for just very little subtleties that maybe on the operations side they don't see something, but as a guest of the hotel, I see something, and so I'll report back to department head or whoever I need to, just as a heads up that, hey, we're getting low on water in the fitness room or something like that, where the guest isn't going to say anything. But that's my opportunity to assist in other areas, because as a guest of the hotel using the fitness room, I know how important it is that there's water and towels and things like that. So it's just one of those things where when you stay in the hotel, you notice things as the guests notice. So I always preach to the team to when we come in the morning, come through the front door of the hotel, because then you see the lobby as the guest sees the lobby, as opposed to the back door employee entrance. Who cares what that looks like? So if you come through the front door, you just take everything in as the guest sees it. And I always encourage too, GMs, DOSs, they should stay at their own hotel from time to time, again, like I do, just to experience. You'd be shocked how many DOSs or GMs have never stayed in their own hotel. So, we're back in the office, squirreling away at, numbers and whatnot and doing all this stuff. But be a guest of your own hotel. It's fascinating how you see things then, and that just helps you be a better hotel, both from the sales perspective and operations. So I always preach that as well. Whenever you can, try to stay in your own hotel.
It's that first-hand experience that makes all the difference in the world.
Right. And you just see the subtle things because, at this level, 3-diamond, most hotels, branded hotels, 3-diamond, you have your basic amenities are the same no matter what brand you're staying in nowadays. And so it's hard to differentiate on an amenities side what brand you're staying in. But it's those little touch points. That's where when the guest leaves, they remember that was that hotel that did this or did that, just little tiny things in addition to the standard nice amenities that we all have. It's those little things that if you are familiar with staying in your own hotel, you pick up on different nuances and things that are important to the guests. But if you're in the back office all the time, you may not know what is important to the guest.
Now, truth be told, when you go to other hotels, vacation, reunions, what have you, do you find yourself kind of looking around the corner at things too as well?
Oh yeah, I can't help myself. So. So it's that and restaurants, things like that. I just can't help myself. So it's one of those it factor things. Like you either have, it's hard to teach somebody to look at those little things. But we do have a little tool that we've used, and I've done this in many markets. We call it the Site Tour Team Challenge. So we will partner a sales manager with a housekeeper. We'll assign them a room to prep for a site tour.
Okay.
And so the room is clean already, but we'll as a sales team member before a scheduled site tour, we always go up to the room, turn on all the lights, make sure the air is at the right temperature, things like that. So what I'll do is I'll place some traps in and around each room, like a wrapper behind the chair and whatnot, or fingerprints on a window. So we assign a sales manager and a housekeeper a room. Go prep that room. And so it's a team challenge. It's a good team building thing. And so we'll grade them on points to see if they found the little traps. And because it is eye-opening for our housekeepers do a fantastic job of cleaning rooms. But sometimes, you might, and I see, we can all, if we think back, we've all seen this in no matter what level of hotel room, a crooked lampshade, something like that, just slightly crooked, not anything crazy, but it's those little subtle little things. So in prepping for the site tour challenge, I'll tweak the lampshades and things like that. And so the housekeepers are so well trained to make sure the bed is perfect and the bathroom's perfect. And those are the two most important things in a room, but there's all those little things everywhere else in the room. So that's where the sales managers will point out, that lampshade, they'll fix the lampshade and we'll turn on the lights. And so we're showing to the housekeepers, how important certain things are to the guests that are staying at the hotel. And it goes two ways too. I mean, nobody works harder, obviously, than the housekeepers. It's an amazing job that they do to have these clean rooms like we have, on a daily basis. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how not overwhelming, but I mean difficult that job is. So we have a lot of fun with the site tour challenge, and it's a good team building operation or team building exercise that points out those little things like we were talking, like how to see things through the eyes of the guest.
What a great eye-opening exercise for both parties. I mean,
yeah,
just a terrific idea.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So one of the things that we like to focus on the podcast is employer brand and the importance of it. And I know that Parks Hospitality also looks at that quite strongly. In fact, they've stated that employees or potential employees are, quote, internal clients. So how do you assure that all property leaders stick to that?
Well, I mean, it goes, like we were talking earlier about seeing things through the prism of the guest, always trying to promote that. And I think, too, I think I heard somebody else say this recently that and this is totally true, we're striving to have 5-diamond staff operating our 3-diamond hotels. So just, 3 diamond is the largest range in the, 5 diamond system, if you will. And so, yeah, we're really strong brands, clean hotels, run fantastic, but we want 5 diamond staff. So training is huge. The brand, regardless of what brand, when you're talking Hilton, Marriott, Starwood / Marriott, whatever, they all have really strong brand training. And so that's the one component. Then we have, so there's like generic brand training. Then there's brand training for the specific brand, or there's enterprise training, brand training, and then parks training. So there's 3 components there. They're all slightly different. If you're operating in a loft or a True, we're building a True at Raleigh-Durham Airport. And I haven't even seen what the training component is for that, but I'm sure it's a little different than for a DoubleTree or Hilton Garden Inn. Slightly different. It's Hilton, but the brand itself each brand has its own personality. So you're sort of looking for employees to represent that brand in a way that is reflective of the brand, if that makes any sense. So we're always striving for that. We try to teach everybody to operate the hotel as an owner. So we're a family-owned business, and we own and operate all of our hotels. So we're not a third-party management company. We own Parks owns the building and manages the building. So it's run as if we have an ownership stake on the property level in the building.
Terrific feedback, both on training, on taking ownership of the property. Some great takeaways. Now, I guess one last question. We focused a lot on sales because I was at your background, of course. But let's take a step back as we wrap it up. To anyone who looks to get into the hospitality industry, no matter what discipline you're in as part of the hotels, country clubs, restaurants, whatever it may be, what is the single most important thing someone who's looking to get industry, what should they be thinking about? What's the tip you can give them?
Somebody who enjoys the customer service aspect, whether or not you're working the front desk, working the sales office, working in the restaurant of the hotel, it's all customer service. And, making sure when the guest checks in, from the pre-arrival to arrival, during their stay, and when they leave, they feel good about their experience at our hotel. And so if you don't like people and you don't like customer service, you may not enjoy the industry. And so you need to have a quote-unquote people person is probably, what we're looking at first. You got to be friendly and enjoy interacting with people. It's fascinating, on a daily basis when we see the arrivals report, all different walks of life, people coming into our hotels. It's incredible to think under one roof you got people from several countries, several states, all across the board. It's amazing. It would be kind of cool to get everybody in the same room and just chat, and talk about their experience. So you got to have somebody who loves customer service.
That's a terrific takeaway, and I think a great ending point for today. I mean, I appreciate you carving out some time out of your day. Before we let you go, how do people get a hold of you?
On LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll always connect. And a couple email addresses, kip.damrow@parkshotels.com or kip.damrow@hilton.com.
Well, we'll put a link to both email addresses as well as your LinkedIn profile up on our website, which is hospitality1to1.com. Again, Kip, thank you so much. Valuable information. It really is.
My pleasure.
Great information. And again, have a great day.
All right. Thank you. You too.